Doc, we are back in Santa Monica with Ask the Doc again, and we have some huge news for you guys today. You wanna talk about it,
Yeah,
Doc?
I'm not sure it's huge, but it's been a long time coming for me, that's for sure.
It's huge news. It's great news. Yeah.
Well, I finally released my first and maybe my only book. And I say that simply because it was a lot of work. But the title of the book is called Cheating Death. And
Show it.
Obviously,
You have a whole bunch on the desk here.
it's trying to grab your attention, right? Which most people will say, what? Yeah. And yeah, certainly we're not any of us going to cheat death in the sense, we're all going one day. But the idea of the book is really to spread the word about all the tools we have available to us to make what we that we have here on the planet not only longer, but I would argue more importantly, better.
Better
we
quality.
call it increasing health span. So the book, I think they call it dropped or was released on, release is a better word, March 7th. And we've already we made the Barnes & Noble and the Amazon bestseller list.
Wow.
And hope we're going to continue because, as I said, it was definitely what they call a labor of love. A lot of work, and there's an expression in the business where they killed a lot of my babies, which means, I had a lot of ideas in the book that I actually took a long time to try to explain. Some complicated stuff sometimes that isn't really, it's not too hard to understand. It's just sometimes the language has to be translated. We always use this fancy medical speak. But I said, this is out, that's out. No one wants to hear about this. You're the nerd, that kind of stuff. But I still think there's a lot of good stuff in there that's valuable that I think our listeners would enjoy, reading up on, because I would argue, gosh, is there one listener even that, doesn't care about health? We're talking about ways to improve, optimize health span, which is a combination of good health combined with longevity. So I would think anybody who's listening to us might be interested in the book. So
Why did you decide to write a book? What made it that it's quite? I mean, you're so busy. First of all, here, and you're always so.
Thank you for noticing that. Yeah, but when the idea hit me, it was probably when COVID first started. It was about March something.
Yeah.
And after my third day, after being the lockdown of being sunburned at 1 p.m. after a couple beers in the backyard and going, well, this is not fun. I mean, it was fun a couple days, but then by the third day, it's like, okay, there's got to be something better than this. And idea popped in my head, and then as you know, the lockdowns continued.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed doing the work, honestly. It's my passion, and I got to dig even deeper into some of these things that I've always been interested in. And one of the things, I joke with people, if my wife would agree to it, and we had the technology, I would love to be frozen and then wake up, even just 100 years hence, just to see how many advances we get to. And I know we're gonna. I mean, if you look in hindsight, historically, we've made advancements in the last 10 years that, took us at least 100 years to get to before. So we're jumping to the next level.
It's going faster. Yeah,
finding out even more things that I thought were available to us was fascinating. And again, the point is to spread the word about all these alternatives, these avenues we have to extend our health span. And I use the example. I was one of those, and I talk about it in the book, that there's nothing I can do for the spine injuries and stuff. And back then the best thing they had was the equivalent of a door hinge as a disc replacement, or fusion. I'm like, man, I'm 20 something years old. You're not doing that to me, even though they're telling me, oh, you're going to be in a wheelchair by the time you're 40 and all this kind of stuff. If you don't, and so I ignored them. For a lot of reasons. I mean, as an athlete, I got underneath, not trying to boast, but just to make the point, if they told me I want to be in a wheelchair by the time I'm 40, I'm doing squats again, 12 reps with 365 like it's a walk in the park. And I'm going, these doctors don't know what they're talking about. So for 33 years, I ignored the advice I had been given, largely because I just ignorant about all the new options that had occurred, every year, as it may, or as it were, and I missed out on some opportunities to help myself that, in hindsight, I probably would be better off for taking advantage of at the time. But anyway, the idea is to let people know all the options we have, man, to to make life better. And just because you've, I don't know, been a smoker or you've had some pretty serious injuries doesn't mean the game's over just yet. You know, we got some tools to get us back in the game.
That's awesome.
That's the reason for the book.
That's awesome. You've been traveling a lot, promoting it. You were supposed to be actually just go to New York tomorrow, but it's been pushed back to April. How do you like the promoting aspect of the book and everything? That's not really. I mean, you got better. I mean, you've done a lot of documentary. We do the show, so you're out there. You know, a lot of people
know the answer to the question, man. I mean, we would not be doing this show if it weren't for you.
It was good practice for you for 5 years.
I was comfortable just doing my job here in what used to be a little corner office next door, as you know. And it was your idea to spread the word back then about what some of the things we have mutual interest in. And I've enjoyed what we're doing here, and I've come to enjoy it. It's not what I like to do 24/7. I like a lot of the one-on-one with patients, obviously, and I like studying this stuff. But and I do say the same thing over and over a lot, behind closed doors, and nobody knows because it's on a one-on-one basis. But I feel like I'm saying a lot of the same things in these interviews. But the purpose is why I'm doing it.
But there's always new people watching you. That's the thing,
How else are people going to know if you don't get out there and tell them? And again, that's the purpose of the book. So I'm enjoying the ride so far, and we're going to New York, which my wife and I used to do a few times during the year for various reasons, business and otherwise. And we're going to be at the Barnes & Noble.
Book signing?
Yeah, on Fifth Street, the big one. So that's going to be fun.
That's awesome.
And
you're famous now, isn't that? It's awesome.
I'm famous.
You are famous.
What is true is that we're getting a solid following. Because we have what do they call them, views or something like that on the YouTube.
Yeah, we're all over.
It does make it fun when you run into somebody. I was just in Indian Wells a week or so ago, and people in the gym. It was a world gym over there. Got to get your exercise in, and hey, you're that YouTube guy, right? Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's always fun because it's just fun, and it's fun to kid about the fame stuff, but it's fun to walk into some place and meet somebody, and right away you're on the same page, and you're dealing with someone of the same ilk. You can start talking about the same stuff, and that's the
feedback you wanted. Sometimes you're like, I'd love to get some feedback. That's when you get it when you go to the gym, because people will tell you, I watched the show, and I mean, so many people will just tune into the channel just to see you because they think you're the best thing since sliced bread.
Because we're talking about the same stuff, and stuff that a lot of other physicians and other people don't want to talk about.
It's important. People want that right information, and they just want to go somewhere where they can get it and they can use it, and that's great.
Exactly what I hear. It's hey, thank you guys for giving us that information that we don't hear elsewhere. Pretty much that's what it boils down to.
That's right.
So that makes it all worthwhile, whatever it is.
Well, congrats on the book. I'm really excited for you. We're gonna put the image in here, you guys, so you guys can actually order it. You can actually get it on Amazon. Where else can we get it, though?
You can get it just about any outlet. Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And we have a website, cheatingdeath.com. Like the book, Cheating Death.
I'll put it in the videos people can order.
And they can do it that way, too. Whatever's easiest,
Okay, awesome. Well, congrats, Doc. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, I get the last one. So this one says, Docs, thanks so much for the show. We really appreciate the knowledge. There's been a lot of talk lately about this new fat loss drug called Ozempic. What can you tell us about it? Do you like the drugs? Do you know what do you know about it? And do you actually refer to some people? Or do you have client using it?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
It's taken off. Okay.
Right.
And in large part because of the environment here in Los Angeles, specifically Hollyweird, right? Semaglutide, I'll say. I don't remember if it was Wegovy first or Ozempic first. Has been around. It's a GLP-1 or a GLP-1 agonist, and it's been around since 2017. So it's been around for a while. And as you probably know, you don't want to be the first one on the block to start on something new. So I waited until the beginning of 2022, and people were knocking on the door. Hey, have you heard of that one? And can I do that? I say, you know what? I'm a registered libertarian, so I would say, if you want to, it's a diabetic drug, and yes, it's a good possibility it could help you with weight loss, et cetera, et cetera. But I think with 100% success, I steered people away from it just for the reason I said. You know, you don't want to be the first one. Well, let's wait and see if it pans out side effect free, or if there are side effects, there's nothing harmful, etc. So anyway, with that preface, in 2022, I started prescribing it. Anybody who said they wanted it for weight loss purposes, you know, if it was appropriate, I said, sure, let's try it.
So have you heard some good things? You've seen some good results with it?
So far, it's been great. Okay,
Really?
And it makes sense by its mechanism of action, right? The GLP-1 agonism helps reduce appetite. Okay, so that's a great start. And you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, you know, I'm losing weight. I'm not sure it's because of the drug, directly or indirectly because I'm not hungry. I'm eating so much less. Well, it slows motility too, which means it could be a problem for those that already have an issue. And unfortunately, even ironically, you know, those who are diabetics oftentimes have an issue with motility. Gastroparesis is the official fancy term for it, right? But it's still worth lowering your blood sugars, because the idea is, especially if you catch it early enough, if you're diabetic, the gastroparesis will reverse and it won't be permanent nerve damage, and things will start flowing again. So in terms of side effects, what I've seen are, the only ones I've seen are nausea. Why do I see that? People will double the dose and hope for the most, or start at a higher dose than you're supposed to. There's definitely a ramping protocol with these two drugs. They're both semaglutides, they're just branded differently, okay? There's one you haven't mentioned, or I haven't mentioned, Mounjaro, which is a different compound but has the same effect, okay? And that's dosed differently, but all three of those are in the category we're talking about here. But the semaglutide has to start with typically 0.25 milligrams, and you do that, you inject it subcutaneously just underneath the skin once a week, and you do that for a month before you then double it to then half a milligram. You do that for a month each week until you double it again to eventually you get to 2 milligrams. I'm talking about Wegovy now, and then you hold there, okay? I've seen some pretty incredible results. Now, the one caveat is, remember that we're talking about, when you hear and you read the studies that are talking about results, these aren't typically with guys and gals like you and me. They're not athletic and just want to lose weight because, like I had a patient today, you know, oh, I don't know what happened, but as of November, I just stopped and I put on 20 pounds, right? I got off my ketogenic diet, and, you know, I put on 20 pounds between November and February, and I'm overweight now. Okay, well, okay. Conceivably, since it is a weight loss drug, you could use it to drop those 20 pounds, but you don't want to drop just 20 pounds, do you? You want to drop 20 pounds of fat, is my point. You want to hold muscle. As a matter of fact, if you can gain muscle, you want to do that. So for you and me, it should not be a problem. And anyone who's fairly athletic and is continually leveraging the muscle accretion, or at least maintenance, and that way you preserve the muscle and you leverage the loss of body fat alone. But if someone is obese and not active, and you know, I don't want to say skinny fat, because that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about seriously obese, but with very little muscle, you got to be careful, because just getting rid of weight, you could also lose muscle mass. So I wouldn't just give semaglutide willy-nilly for someone who's obese and needs to lose weight, because it is now officially, well, the Wegovy brand is officially, they've gone through whatever steps to be designated as, I forget the wording, you know, chronic obesity treatment by the FDA. It's FDA approved. It's the first ever weight loss drug. Wow. Oh, it's not. What about phentermine? Phentermine is not a weight loss drug. It leads to weight loss. It's an appetite suppressant. This is truly something where they go, take this and you're going to lose weight. But again, you got to be careful. And I know there's a lot of controversy because I think it has to do with insurance rules or whatever, but people are taking it who aren't necessarily obese. Well, I think what they need to be focusing on is, again, the body composition overall. Is someone really overweight and needs to lose a lot of fat but doesn't have much muscle? You got to be careful. Yeah. And you might consider giving them something to enhance muscle anabolism while you're also giving them something to reduce the fat for that reason. Now, that might be a side note for a lot of our listeners who I think tend to be athletes, but just to be, you know, to give you the full scoop, as it were. Nice. That's what's going on with the semaglutides. And I think you're going to see more and more lookalikes coming along, different ootides, if you will. Excuse me, GLP-1 agonists is what I'm talking about. You'll see those coming down the line. And we also have ones that can be used orally now, too, that doesn't involve a once-a-week injection.
Oh, wow.
So you have some latitude there with, what your preferences are.
Awesome.
But overall, I would say keep your eye on it because it is a very effective drug. And we might find, aside from weight loss and sugar control, which it was originally invented for, like metformin is used for anti-aging purposes. It's still young yet. The studies aren't out there, but we may find that we have similar benefits to activate AMPK, for example, or as a PPAR agonist, or as something that just generally activates autophagy, that cellular repair process. If nothing else, it makes sense that you're going to reduce inflammation because you're dropping blood sugars, and we know already that it has good cardiovascular benefits. So again, thumbs up on this one so far, and I'd keep an eye on it.
Good. All right. Thanks, Doc.